Georgia was once a whispered secret nestled in the shadow of the South Caucasus. Today, this captivating borderland greets visitors with breezes carrying aromas of evergreen needles and historic soil. From the mythic Golden Fleece in Kutaisi to the ancient skulls of Dmanisi, history breathes here. We gather upon the uneven summit of the European continent, where mankind's remarkable voyage originally commenced. In the cool, damp stone of ancient cathedrals, polyphonic chanting vibrates through golden icons. Spiritual devotion and viticulture have shaped this identity since 337 AD. Amber vintages age in buried clay Kavevri, forever tasting of the sun-drenched earth. In this land, each visitor represents a divine blessing, greeted with abundant feasts and an unusual alphabet resembling lyrical poetry. We ascend the northern frontier to Stepantsminda, where Mount Kazbek pierces the clouds with icy resolve. Perched in the rarefied alpine atmosphere, the Gergeti Trinity Church serves as a solitary guardian of enduring devotion. Traversing the military highway, we encounter ancient trade routes and the Prometheus legend. Beside these profound canyons, the environment reveals quiet mysteries concealed inside the moving highland fog. Navigating the white-knuckle cliffs of Abano Pass, we vanish into the isolation of Tusheti. Historic rock fortresses in Ushguli remain resolute beneath the icy, rugged silhouette of Mount Shkara. These rugged highlands preserve customs and blood feuds that predate the modern map. Memorable melodies sung by the Svan community reflect an endurance outlasting both imperial conquests and harsh winter climates. Returning to the cradle of myth, Georgia remains a sanctuary for those seeking a narrative written in stone. Or this country persists, spanning from the ancient archaeological origins of Dmanisi to its lively modern existence. It is a reflection on the eternal beauty of preservation and fierce roots. Surrounded by highland fog, we discover a spiritual refuge, recalling the precise cradle of early humanity. Step into the shadows of 337 CE, where Georgia fused its soul with the very soil. Entering Svetitskhoveli brings an atmosphere heavy with the aroma of candles and cold, historic masonry. Come, the low, resonant drone of polyphonic chanting vibrates through your marrow like a timeless heartbeat. In this territory, sacred traditions are deeply etched into rough highland summits and generational heritage. In the Georgian heart, a guest is a literal gift sent directly from heaven. As travelers are treated not as outsiders, but as gifts to be honored with immense generosity. This mandate transforms a meal into a supra, where the tamada weaves poetry into every glass. Past the freshly baked cheese bread, dining tables transform into arenas for intellectual discourse and meaningful bonding. The language Kartvelian is a rhythmic percussion of glottal sounds found nowhere else on Earth. This writing system features captivating curved strokes representing one of the globe's mere 14 distinct orthographies. Every April, the nation honors this visual poetry that stood firm against centuries of brutal invasion. Observing this alphabet allows one to witness the determination of a society that resisted cultural extinction. To know this land, you must taste its lifeblood, the 8,000-year-old wine. Within Kakheti, households utilize kvevri, large clay pots designated by UNESCO and placed under the chilly soil. This is ancient alchemy, producing amber wines that are tannic, complex, and hauntingly alive. Drinking wine from these vessels connects you to the identical flavors enjoyed during humanity's earliest eras. Georgia is a masterclass in continuity, proving progress is hollow without deep, ancient roots. Progressing into the future requires staying connected to the venerable ground and history shrouded in fog. Through wine, faith, and fierce hospitality, it remains one of the world's most soulful sanctuaries. Rather than a mere vacation, this journey represents a return to the cradle of persistent human resolve. In the silence of the mountains, we finally find ourselves again. For many years, Georgia remained nearly invisible, a quiet secret nestled within the rugged, towering southern Caucasus mountains. Today, this hidden gem has transformed into a magnetic frontier for intrepid travelers seeking a narrative written in mountain mist and ancient dust. This expedition provides a sensory shift from the warm, damp winds of the coast to the rarefied, harsh environment of high peaks. These 5,000-meter peaks are more than a backdrop. They are a vertical fortress protecting traditions that have vanished elsewhere in the world. While exploring Kutaisi, one encounters the legacy of the second millennium BC, the historical realm of Caucasus, where Argonauts sought the Golden Fleece. But the real secret lies buried in the volcanic soil of Dmanisi. In this region, ancient hominid fossils dating back nearly 2 million years established the area as an early human homeland. These first Europeans remind us that this land is where our species first began to wander into the unknown. By adopting Christianity in 337 AD, the nation aligned its identity with spiritual faith, ranking among the world's earliest Christian states. As entering Svaneti Cathedral, you are met with the thick scent of beeswax and the chill of damp ancient stone. Intricate multi-part singing fills the space, offering a deep, resonant musical experience that echoes the pulse of the surrounding highlands. This spiritual grit is matched by the supra, a traditional feast where the mandate is sacred, a guest is a gift from God. The traditional Toastmaster integrates philosophical reflection and poetry into each drink, converting a modest gathering into a connection to historical eras. Even the language, Kartvelian, is a linguistic island with a unique script of curls and swirls found nowhere else on the planet. This writing system stands as one of merely 14 distinct scripts that persisted through historical occupations and conflicts. And then there is the wine, an 8,000-year-old unbroken alchemy. Within the Kakheti region, golden wines mature in underground clay vessels, carrying flavors from the very ground that supported the earliest human societies. Georgia is a masterclass in continuity, proving that progress is hollow without deep ancient roots. Travelers journey up the steep northern slopes towards Stepantsminda, a highland settlement overlooked by the massive, snow-covered peak of Mount Kazbek. Perched precariously on a ridge is the 14th century Gergeti Trinity Church, a sentinel of resilience where the thin air carries ancient religious whispers. Mythology holds that Prometheus was imprisoned on these mountainsides for disobeying deities, bringing legendary significance to the rugged Caucasus terrain. We traverse the Georgian military highway, an ancient trade route where deep gorges tell stories of strategic conflict and breathtaking natural beauty. Visiting the cliffside monument reveals a bright mosaic that provides broad regional vistas alongside an intricate commentary on changing geopolitical relations. Further down, the 17th century, Ananuri fortress stands guard, its towers still echoing the desperate struggle for survival against northern invaders. When the expedition concludes beside these steep, dizzying precipices, the striking vertical rise of the terrain leaves behind an unresolved mystery. In the mountain mist, Georgia remains a soulful sanctuary, reminding us exactly where our journey as a species truly began. This nation has emerged from obscurity, no longer concealed within the rugged shadows of the southern Caucasian peaks. It has transformed into a magnetic frontier where the air feels heavy with pine and ancient dust. Previously, this destination remained relatively unknown, but now it attracts travelers looking for stories shaped by highland fog. At the crossroads of Europe and Asia, the geography here is a beautiful, treacherous destiny. Arriving here brings a stark physical transition, shifting from the moist coastal climate to the rarefied atmosphere of northern summits. These 5,000-meter peaks act as a vertical fortress, protecting traditions that have vanished elsewhere on Earth. Exploring Kutisi allows you to trace remnants of the 2nd millennium BC, the mythic birthplace of the Golden Fleece. But the real mystery lies buried in the volcanic soil of Dmanisi. Scientists discovered ancient hominid remains dating back nearly 2 million years, representing early travelers who ventured into uncharted lands. This is the ancestral home where the human spirit first found its courage. By accepting Christianity in 337 AD, the country integrated its collective identity deeply with spiritual belief. Inside Svetitskhoveli Cathedral, the scent of beeswax hangs thick in the damp ancient stone air. The deep harmonious tones of traditional group singing resonate profoundly, leaving a lasting impression on listeners. This spiritual grit is matched by the Supra, a feast where every guest is a literal gift from God. During feasts, the traditional toastmaster combines deep reflection and poetic speech with each serving of golden wine.
Like the leopard in our mountains, we must remain strong. Our words are isolation, our rhythm.
Their language, Kartvelian, is a linguistic island with a rhythmic percussion found nowhere else on Earth. The local writing system displays elegant rounded characters, standing as one of merely 14 distinct scripts globally to endure historical conquests. Then there is the wine, an 8,000-year-old unbroken alchemy. Throughout the valleys of Kakheti, local wines are matured inside large clay vessels placed beneath the chilly ground. touching a kvevi, you taste the same soil that nourished the very dawn of civilization. Continuing north, we travel towards Stepantsminda, where the majestic snow-covered Mount Kazbek rises prominently into the sky. Dominating the ridge is the 14th century Gergeti Trinity Church, a sentinel of faith against the thin mountain air. Local folklore suggests Prometheus was chained to these mountains for opposing the heavens, imparting a mythological atmosphere to the region. We traverse the Georgian military highway, an ancient trade route carved through deep strategic gorges. Situated on the edge, the vibrant Friendship Monument presents a thoughtful illustration of changing geopolitical alignments. Further down, the towers of the 17th century Ananyuri fortress still echo the desperate struggle against northern invaders. In this steep highland environment, historical legacies are not merely recollected, but remain preserved in the rock itself. The sheer scale of the Caucasus makes you feel small, yet strangely connected to the giants of the past. Within the moving fog, these peaks preserve tales of endurance that standard cartography cannot entirely convey. Every peak here tells a story of defiance against the passage of time. A major challenge arrives while traversing the steep, narrow trails of the Abano Pass at high altitude. The road clings precariously to crumbling rock, leading us into the deep isolation of Tusheti. The district serves as an enduring historical sanctuary, isolated from modern society during months of intense winter weather. In the village of Ushguli, medieval stone towers stand defiant against the frozen shadow of Mount Shkara. Local stone defensive towers were constructed to protect households from external threats, as well as domestic disputes. In the Mestia Museum, precious icons were hidden for centuries to escape the reach of global empires. Within the Svan Highlands, traditional musical compositions preserve a cultural heritage that outlasts severe seasonal climates. As we hike the rugged glacial trails, the dramatic verticality of Georgia leaves us with a lingering question. Surrounded by highland vapors, we encounter a spiritual retreat that points back to the early days of humanity. This is not just a journey, it is a homecoming to the unbroken human spirit. We journey down from the quiet northern ranges into the lively, energetic streets of the capital city. This is where 5th century stone foundations aren't just cold ruins. They are the living bedrock of a neon-soaked modern heartbeat. More than a conventional capital, Tbilisi is a fiercely resilient city where the air blends historic memory with modern forward-looking energy. It is the final frontier where the old world refuses to bow to the new. Overlooking the city is the Mother of Georgia, a massive metallic monument representing the essential spirit of the country. In one hand, she offers a bowl of wine to welcome her guests. In the other, she grips a sword to gut her enemies. Just below her, the ancient Narikana fortress occupies the steep hillsides, bearing structural scars from 1600 years of conflict and siege. Scaling these ruins, you feel the vibrations of every empire that tried to crush this spirit and failed. We observe the historic Meteki Church, situated prominently above the river, as a monument to spiritual devotion that has been repeatedly damaged and reconstructed. Yet right across the river, the Bridge of Peace arcs through the air, a glass and steel ribbon connecting the medieval to the futuristic. Nearby, the Sameba Cathedrals stands tall among the globe's grandest Eastern Orthodox temples, marking a notable religious revival following the end of the Soviet era. In the city's shadows, the Chronicle of Georgia looms, monumental stone pillars carved with the epic sagas of kings, queens, and prophets. While stone structures tell stories of past struggles, the genuine hospitality of the city resides within the warm baths of Abanutubani. Here, the sulfur hot springs flow from the Earth's core, giving the city its name and its reputation for a hospitality that burns as hot as the water. Pausing once more beside the high precipice, the striking elevation of the surrounding country leaves travelers with a persistent sense of wonder. Georgia proves that to thrive, one must be deeply anchored in the sacred soil while fearlessly facing the unknown. Within the moving highland fog, travelers discover far more than scenic views. They find a spiritual home recalling where early humanity first demonstrated its resilience. This isn't just the end of a trip. It's a homecoming to the unbroken spirit of humanity. As, leaving behind the lively glowing streets of the metropolis, we venture down into the deep, historic subterranean depths. Our first stop is Gori, a city that still breathes the chilling, heavy air of 20th century geopolitical upheaval as the notorious birthplace of Joseph Stalin. Yet the genuine secret lies past the defensive fortifications within Tbilisi, an ancient maze hollowed out of the steep, rocky bluffs. This lord of the fortress is a 3,000-year-old masterpiece of the Iron Age, where the dry wind still carries the whispers of the Silk Road. Picture the sound of galloping horses on the rock, while early traders exchanged rare herbs and lustrous fabrics inside these vast underground chambers. Inside the grand chamber of Queen Tamar's hall, you witness a violent spiritual collision, where ancient pagan altars finally surrendered to the rising tide of 4th century Christianity. This subterranean fortress represented an achievement of endurance, utilizing clever hidden passageways and large grape presses to help residents endure long periods of encirclement. Further south, the Gergeti Mountains reveal a site that dwarfs every other cave settlement in sheer, terrifying scale and architectural ambition. Here lies Vardzia, a 12th century cave settlement that stands as an impressive, steep monument marking the pinnacle of the nation's historical prosperity. Here, the King of Kings, Queen Tamar, oversaw a realm where faith was chiseled into the very marrow of the volcanic rock. Inside the Church of the Dormition, rare and realistic wall paintings remain remarkably vivid, overlooking a vast network containing thousands of concealed chambers. These were not merely caves. They were sophisticated urban hubs with libraries, bakeries, and invisible pipes carrying fresh water through solid rock. The steep retreat functioned as a secure haven, built expressly to protect the country's heritage and wealth from the approaching threat of Mongol forces. But man's engineering met its ultimate match in the 13th century when a massive earthquake ripped the protective face off the mountain cliff. Disaster abruptly exposed the concealed chambers to the elements, leaving previously protected holy spaces uncovered beneath the rugged alpine air. Standing among these hollowed-out shells today, we are left with a haunting, unanswered question about the civilizations that dared to defy time. Amid the quiet stillness of the masonry, the country's historical pulse continues to resonate, an enduring symbol of a culture that resisted elimination. We emerge from the hollowed silence of the ancient cave cities and strike deep into the heart of City, a new fortress forged through 1,000 years of reconstruction and violent cultural collision. Rabati Castle appears overhead like a complex tapestry of historical masonry, where the legacies of Georgian, Turkish, and Persian rulers occupy the same halls. It is a rare, breathing mosaic of human history, where a mosque, a church, and a synagogue stand shoulder to shoulder within the same defensive walls. Beyond simple building design, this structure represents a powerful symbol of unity, where different religious groups collaborated to survive the pressures of expansive regional powers. As we push further into the gorge, the 2nd century BC Tbilisi fortress clings to a jagged rocky outcrop, its shadow long and heavy with the ancient legend of Alexander the Great. Resting upon these worn stone ramparts, one senses the profound passage of years, witnessing the fall of historical empires while the fortress remains standing firm and proud. But the tension of the frontier soon gives way to the emerald embrace of Kakheti, the undisputed epicenter of an 8,000-year-old unbroken winemaking obsession. Our journey reaches Svaneti, known as the Romantic City, where historical paved streets lead to decorated timber balconies, overlooking the broad vistas of the Alazani Valley below. Walking the massive fortress walls, you realize these stones were once a vital, blood-soaked shield for the region. Today, they offer only panoramic serenity and the intoxicating scent of ripening grapes. Perched upon a bright, elevated ridge, the historic Necresi monastery contains some of the earliest monastic cellars, demonstrating that in this culture, the traditions of winemaking and religious devotion are deeply integrated into daily life. We eventually find a final healing sanctuary at Bodbi Monastery, the garden-shrouded tomb of Saint Nino. This female saint used a cross constructed of grape branches to introduce the Christian faith here, establishing a spiritual foundation that continues to influence modern traditions and communal gatherings. As our journey nears its end where the fortress meets the vine, we are left standing at the edge of an unresolved horizon. The lasting, profound heritage of the country is preserved within moving alpine clouds, awaiting curious visitors who wish to explore the history of its ancient architecture. This land isn't just a destination on a map. It is a narrative that etches itself into your marrow, a reminder that to truly survive, one must be as strong as a fortress and as resilient as the vine. Within the quietness of the lowlands, the inner self ultimately experiences a deep sense of belonging. Just as the lush alpine forests of the north begin to fade, you are plunged into the sun-scorched silence of the David Ganesha Monastery. Far more than a simple structure, this 6th century holy retreat is hollowed out from the reddish cliffs near the Azerbaijani boundary. The heat is a physical weight, yet inside these hollowed caves, medieval frescoes remain startlingly vivid and hauntingly alive. These murals depict historic spiritual narratives maintained for more than 10 centuries by successive resident clergy who sought peace in this remote area. To touch these stones is to feel the pulse of a civilization that refused to be withered by the desert wind or the passage of empires. Soon, the terrain shifts into the colorful, otherworldly vistas of the Mivalskaro Hills, presenting views that seem entirely foreign. Layers of mineral strata paint the hills in surreal stripes of ochre, violet, and blood orange, looking like a secret world transported from another galaxy. Next, we enter the Vaishlavani Nature Reserve, where the typical lush vegetation gives way to dry, rugged landscapes marked by steep gravel ravines. This is a land of sharp edges and lethal beauty, where the horizontal plains suddenly collapse into massive, bone-dry canyons. This steep labyrinth was shaped by powerful geological shifts over time, requiring caution and preparation from all who visit. In the shadows of ancient, twisted pistachio groves, a fragile refuge remains for the ghost of the Caucasus, the elusive Caucasian leopard. The delicate environment serves as a haven for uncommon wildlife, where wild gazelles traverse the dry plains with quiet care. At the edge of the world, Eagle Canyon offers a dizzying descent where the Tatruskali River slices through monolithic limestone walls. Large birds of prey navigate the warm air currents above, monitoring a territory that has stayed pristine since the beginning of mankind. Every movement here is a calculation of survival, a rhythmic dance between predator and unforgiving, beautiful terrain. We follow the unwritten paths of pastoral wanderers, whose annual migratory tracks are deeply ingrained within the history of this land. Among the dust, we find scattered remnants and forgotten stone markers, relics of resilience that prove humanity can thrive where nature holds absolute authority. These arid formations provide a striking, modest exhibition of natural force, where each rough rock reveals ancient geological shifts. Standing on a crumbling cliff as the desert wind begins to howl, the landscape offers no easy answers, only a profound sense of continuity. The allure of this nation is concealed within moving alpine fog and dry plains, awaiting discovery by future travelers. This isn't just a destination. It is an enduring, soulful sanctuary where the heartbeat of the earth still echoes through the silence. Departing from tourist destinations, we enter the pale, quiet, and atmospheric remains of historic Skartubo. Here, 22 grand sanatoriums stand like skeletal monuments, their marble halls now choked with vines and heavy architectural silence. Formerly a premium resort for Soviet citizens, these abandoned facilities now attract modern travelers seeking remnants of a past political epoch. Peeling paint and crumbling ceilings tell a story of decadence turned to decay, where mineral springs flow, but the laughter has long since died. Visiting the old mining settlement of Kyatura introduces a unique form of endurance related to extreme heights. Nicknamed Stalinist coffins, rusted 1950s cable cars still groan across lethal cliffs, ferrying residents over a landscape forgotten by time. Observing old cable cars move unevenly above deep ravines, one experiences the industrious character of a town established along steep cliffs. But then, the horizon shifts toward the divine at the hidden Kakheti pillar. A tall, single stone column rises above the surrounding woodland, supporting a lonely hermitage perched high between ground and sky. It is a place where solitude is absolute, a stone needle defying gravity and the noise of the 21st century. Deep within the lush green forests, near Motsameta Monastery, the local environment evokes the memory of historic noble martyrs. The mystical tradition demands a moment where wishes are whispered into the mountain silence to bridge the gap between man and myth. Traveling from the lively capital to the northern highlands represents much more than a simple physical transit. It is a profound internal exploration. And Georgia's true power isn't found in postcard views, but in its stubborn, fierce preservation of the sacred amidst the ruin. When moving highland fog covers the steep precipices, observers remain on the border of a mysterious, vast landscape. Does this ancient land hold the secret to where our species first found its courage, or is the unanswered mystery just beginning? Venture past conventional tourist itineraries to discover the fascinating history still preserved inside these old, secluded stone structures. If you seek a narrative written in mist and dust, join our community of seekers by subscribing below. The path across the southern Caucasian region remains open, awaiting future travelers ready to explore this historic territory filled with the fragrance of evergreens and dust.